Okay, let me show you what I did here. This is a charge harness that I have. It's an extra charge harness, but I will show you what I kept off of this charge harness. So here you're gonna need to hang on to this positive cable that goes into the alternator, the charging positive, this plug that goes into the alternator. You will need to hang on to this plug, the signal wire that goes into the starter. You're going to eliminate this positive for the that goes to the starter from the battery, because you're going to replace that because it's not long enough. And you're going to keep this plug, which is the positive plug, is the signal plug, and the one that you will be keeping will be this black one, and this is the one that I modified to fit into the fuse box. Here with my charge harness and hooking up my charging system, this is my TSX charge harness, and actually this actually came out of a 2003 Honda Accord. The positive starter cable, the positive cable for the starter is this white wire, and here's the signal. So if you follow this charge harness, and here's the alternator plug and the black wire for the alternator charging. So if you follow these wires, I will probably run the charge harness cable. I want to probably run it underneath here, and I'm going to come up along this passenger side, and here's the positive cable that I will hook up into my existing Integra charge harness. And here's the Integra where this goes to the starter, and the positive cable that goes to the fuse box goes in right there. So I'm gonna leave this cable, which is fine, but this starter cable, I will go ahead and connect that with this white, because as you can see on the RSX, TSX, and Accord, the K series, the battery was located on that side. So what I'm saying is I'm gonna get rid of this terminal. These two wires are gonna be connected, because this is my starter signal from the battery to the starter, and that is the same as how it was on the Integra. And as you can see on the Accord, that wire goes to the starter, right? And this cable goes into the fuse box, just like the Integra. So basically it's going to be the same thing, keeping the positive for the fuse box, and then the starter cable is going to connect here, and that's going to go all the way to the starter. So that's how that is going to work. And then for the black wire that plugs into the alternator, I'm just going to route that guy, and he's going to fill in this slot right here. So with this starter wire from on the charge harness, I went ahead and pulled it out of the loom, and it's much too long And what I'm going to do is I'm going to shorten it. I'm going to shorten it and make it to where it's just gonna plug in with the signal wire on the engine harness. So with this end, it's got an L shape. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna bend this straight, and it's gonna go into the existing fuse box of this Integra. So it's gonna bend, we're gonna bend it straight, and we're gonna put in this location. Here's the original Integra cable that fits in this location. So we're gonna need this wire, we're gonna need the wire from the alternator here, and the 2-gauge cable that's gonna route to the starter. Okay, here's the original cable that goes to the Integra, and here is the cable that on the K series that goes from the alternator into the fuse box. So what I'm gonna do here is I use the hammer and the dolly to hammer this straight. And so what I'm gonna do with this guy is I'm gonna trim him down to this size, and when I trim him down, I'm gonna drill a hole. I'm gonna drill a hole and make it the same length and same size of this connector. I used a cutoff wheel to cut this off, and what I did was I cut it off at the halfway where the bend is. And then so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take an angle grinder and I'm going to shape it, give it a round shape, and then I'm going to drill a hole of this size. Okay, here is my terminal connection. I used a drill bit that's the same size as the hole on the original terminal, and I used an angle grinder to round it off, and it is a good fit. And here is the cable that goes from the battery to the fuse box, and then this cable is the alternator. I'm going to show you guys what I did to terminate my battery. So that means a wire from the battery to the starter. So first off, this is a cable that I got from Arnold. Shout out to Arnold, thank you for hooking it up. This is a welding cable. I'm not sure where you get this. This is a 2-gauge cable, and you're gonna need one of these ends to connect to the starter. With this 2-gauge cable, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna strip it out, but first I'm gonna put this rubber sleeve in for the starter cable. I will feed the cable into the ring terminal. Here I'm going to use this tool to crimp down the ring terminal. I will use a hammer to strike the top of this tool to crimp down the ring terminal. Okay, now the positive cable that goes to the starter is terminated, I used the existing Integra terminal, and I kept the existing positive that goes into the fuse box. And here is the charge cable that goes to the alternator. As you can see, I trimmed it down so it would fit in there. And so those are my charge harness cables that are ran for the Integra chassis for the K24 setup.